Okay, off the top of my head, we're going to talk about what I think NATO is. You guys might agree with me, might not. There's a lot of misunderstanding I'm finding on the internet about what NATO is and what a NATO expansion is. Actually, even it's really cool. So, the way that civilization has played out and how it develops is much along a pattern on how smaller systems work. And an easy step to take from one system to another that is something that the mind can easily consume or understand is the level of a human body and our organs and our skin and our immune system being compared to all of humans as a civilization, or at least the greater portion of civilization and the direction forward. So this gets into some pretty deep stuff that I won't get into this time, about the biology of morality, like where it really comes from biologically, and why we recognize certain things as moral or immoral based off of a biological or civilization based evolution. But NATO itself is a part of the body. So when they say that NATO is expanding, what it is it's a primary system within a civilization that has found a functionality that is required. So in a body, I have an immune system that acts differently than the rest of my blood cells. And my immune system acts differently when it comes across something that's dangerous or something that's not supposed to be in my body or something that's harming my body. In any one of those different scenarios, it acts very different than it does with normal tissue. So the NATO alliance and militaries across peaceful democratic nations are designed to take care of problems that attack the body, and the body being the civilization. So when NATO is expanding, or countries are coming to NATO and saying, we're going to abide by this set of rules and we're going to group or be part of a grouping as an organization for a beneficial security alliance, that's like an organ saying, well, I am separate from the rest of the body, but I would also like to have an immune defense that's controlled by this collection. And so all of the organs share the load of creating a defense, but at the same time, all of the organs get the benefits of a defense. So when they talk about globalization and the total connection of the world as kind of this, no nation really has an identity anymore because everybody's connected and we're all sharing culture, is not even close to true, because there's too much space and difference and individuality between people and then cultures for it to truly just become a wide gray of everybody together. You're going to have different sections that do different things. So cells, when they evolved, they didn't evolve into bigger, perfect versions of these little tiny individuals that were making them up. They grouped together and formed individual functions, like the cell organelles for a cell. And then that became a multicellular organism. And then the multicellular organism does the same thing. We have organs that perform functions, and they're in us, and we call them us, but they're very different, and they perform different functions. And by performing the different functions, these necessities. Like I said, the immune system is a necessity. My metabolism and how I metabolize energy is a necessity. My nervous system is a necessity. Those are things that have just appeared in civilization. We have lightning fast or light speed communication between our cells, which is the same as a nervous system. And that's because of fiber optic communications. And that was just, within our within my lifetimes in that communication network with the nervous system for the human body just spontaneously developed. We think that we're creating these things, and we have the ego to say that, well, we made it so we can get rid of it, but it's not true, because you can't get rid of it, because it's a self-fulfilling thing. These things are made through necessity. So if you get rid of it, another thing is just going to fill the void, because it's a necessity. And a defense network to defend a unified civilization is a necessity. It's not something that we're designing to attack other things. It wouldn't exist if this actual civilization that it's protecting wasn't attacked. It's chicken before the egg situation. The defensive alliance was built because it was under attack. And that's the difference between the freedom and democratic nations and what a democracy is and what people are fighting for when you see an entire country going to war and youth battling against oppressive leaderships. That freedom that you're looking for is the rights to live, the rights to exist. And democracy, a democratic society, or the collective West as they call it, that's what it represents. So people who are part of the West or going to the West tend to have populations that are enforcing rights, civil rights and liberties for the people. So that was the big movement of people over to North America, was to get away from the oppressive style of ruling that existed in Europe and in all the other countries around the time, and to develop freedoms that were based off of individuals, freedom to have choice, to have life. So this immune system that we've built, it defends our individual cells. If I was a body that just sacrificed chunks of me every once in a while, I'd spend a lot of time trying to repair from those injuries. And that's what we used to do as civilizations 800 years ago, 200 years ago, even 100 years ago, before the breakups of the biggest empires that existed at the time. But now we've evolved as civilizations. The idea of freedom of individuals is more powerful than just sacrificing your individuals for the greater good of groups. That being because the individual groups become corrupted. It's just when you create power structures, it allows for corruption. So when democracies are under attack, one of the things that they're going to say is that the things that we are doing is to attack the other things. That's what I think Russia is saying right now, is that NATO's expansion is an attack on Russia. But if Russia didn't act like a parasite or a virus, then it wouldn't trigger an immune response in the body. So it's pretty natural what you're seeing. And NATO is a natural thing. It's an immune system that is there to defend the civil body against attack. We fought over, when I say we, it's the democratically free people of the world, have fought for our individual freedoms and each other's individual freedoms for 1,000 years. And the power of individual freedoms is collectively more powerful than oppressive nations. And that comes down to physics, efficiency, individually harnessing people. Like the American model of harnessing individuals was incredibly powerful because they weren't, well, mostly they weren't shutting down entire sections of the country. They were, but not to the extent that some other people or some other nations were at the time. Anyway, that's about it. That's what NATO is in my eyes. We are a fractal. Civilization is a fractal of a human body, and NATO is just the immune system. But here's the kicker. If your immune system fails, you die. So the more your immune system gets attacked, the stronger it gets because the more energy you put into it to survive. Russia's trying to falsely do that to their population. They put their population to sleep, and now they're trying to wake them up in a state of we're under attack. But it's only partially working because it's a lie. Whereas every time Russia makes some move against the West to destabilize what a democracy is in any democratic nation. So if you start doing the research, there's a lot of nations that were trying to go towards democracies that were just flatlined because of interference. Yeah. We're just a fractal.